step forward.
Yo, what it is, people. We are the Then and Now podcast. We have returned for another dope episode. Mike's off to the side. There we go. We're back for another dope episode, y'all. Appreciate it. Welcome in. We have a very special episode. We are doing something for the first time on this channel, and we are ranking things. This may be something we do more often, depending on how much fun we have with this. But yeah, I have with me Lelouch V, OG Big Blurred, along with a bunch of other aliases, including Mr. Stinkmeter. How are you doing today, my brother?
I'm turning off my camera. I'm going to try to keep moving this down. This down nickname. I'm good. Had a nice stream with Stan earlier that he came in and helped us through getting through a boss and run. That was fun.
I've seen that. I knew when I was at work, I was pissed. I was like, wow, these things on the game without me. That's crazy.
I mean, we played quite a bit of Remnant. Remnant's been a good time lately. So, still pushing through that. But had some good business done for the Galactic Tribe and for Blurred. So it was a good day.
Yeah, shout out Blurred, shout out G-Tribe. Professor E now, official professor. How you doing today, my brother?
Today I'm doing good. Today's my day off. So I had my first day off in 8 days. So I'm actually getting some rest, trying to relax some. Of course, I played a little bit of Remnant 2 with Mr. OG, Lelouch V, and our boy Staniel. And of course, we were trying to find some stuff. And of course, the game was bugging out and not giving us guns. And so it's one of those days. But still a good day, my friend. Now, Brody Soups, how you feeling? I know it's also like real quick, our faces go from largest, like right in the camera, to slightly larger, to like a little further back. It's like the camera is slowly zooming back from what
I'm readjusting my setup because I got my computer and everything back set up, but I don't know why my camera is in the same placement that it's always been, but for whatever reason it's like it's good, bro. Show the pearly whites.
Hey, I ain't mad at it because your boy got a new camera, so we.
Oh yeah, you got your new camera too. Yeah, you got your new camera.
Skin popping and everything, boy. Melanin going crazy.
Set her up, man. Set her up. Look at yourself right now. You're half off the screen. Set her up, son.
Oh, I was preparing something. My bad.
You only see half your nose.
We'll keep that.
You good half?
No, it's the
Shaboy.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, that shut him up quick.
I'm leaving. Like, why am I even on the show? I don't even like it here. I don't even know these people.
All right, enough with the goofy antics. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's pull up the tier list. All right, y'all. Today we are ranking our shows, or some of the shows that we've watched. Some of them we reviewed from 2023 thus far. There's not too much left to go in the year, so we have a pretty good group of shows here. I tried to make sure these were a group of shows that we have all seen, that we've either talked about in our private chat, or that we have reviewed on the podcast itself. That way we can have a little bit better of a dialogue about it and kind of reminisce on what our initial thoughts were on them. But we're going to start off, again, we have our rankings from S through D. That's what we're doing. We're putting them in tiers, and we're going to start off with the creme de la creme, The Last of Us from HBO and the debut today. What do you guys think? How y'all feeling about it?
S. I mean, just throw it up there. That's where it belongs. I know we're not there yet, and I'm cutting way ahead. Can we make a V tier for Velma? Because that's
we'll get there.
We'll wait for that.
We'll get there. But tell me, talking about Last of Us, I think it was a really good show, man. I do think it's worthy of being S tier. I think it's also, we got to highlight the idea that they used to always say, oh, you can't make good video game movies. And I think what they were just trying to say was that trying to adapt a video game to be exactly like it's supposed to be can be very tricky. But I think sometimes you can find a better medium to bring it to, and also find a way to bring the elements of it or the actual themes of it to life without having to go every single specific minute detail in there. This show did all that beautifully. There were definitely a lot of things they stayed true to form on, but there were some differences as well. They had a whole episode dedicated to showing, spoiler alert for the show and for the game, dedicated to showing Bill and his relationship with his husband. And in the game, it's alluded to the idea that he was with somebody that was a guy, but it doesn't really show it at all.
Like Bill and Frank, right? Frank his name?
I think it's Frank was his dude's name. So it's like this. But anyway, all I'm saying is that this just goes to show you that you can adapt something and do it properly. So
yeah, I'm gonna kind of echo a little bit of the sentiments of my brothers here. This show for me kind of showcased that I don't think there is anything that can't be done in regards to content creation. I'm still holding out hope that we can eventually get a good live action anime adaptation. I know we've gotten a bunch of shitty ones, but shows like this make me believe like one can be done. It can be done. It has to be the right IP. You have to have the right people behind it that are actually fans of the content, that have a knowledge of what makes that thing great. And we got a lot of that in the show, with the directors going to pick out people that were either auditioned to be in the show at one point or literally got voice actors to play like different versions of, not different versions of themselves, but like they got old girl to play her mom. Oh my god, I forgot.
The actual actress that
yeah.
Ashley, isn't it Ashley something?
Ashley something.
We can look it up. Yeah.
But yeah, it's little stuff like that. Like people don't care, but it's like little production stuff like that I think really shows how much you care about your production. You don't always have to have something to that extent, but just little things like that help to make that thing great, even if you don't see what it is.
Yeah. Her name is Ashley Johnson.
Ashley Johnson, okay. Because she'll make another appearance in this as well. Or was she? Okay, it's there. Yeah, she'll make another appearance. So we'll go ahead and move this up to the S tier and call it a day. Moving into Swarm. This is a show that we all had a little bit of a dialogue on and a discourse on. We'll start with Ethan this time to keep things fresh. We'll switch it up.
I liked seeing different kind of content, because obviously this is by Donald Glover and who was another famous person that we know was a creator behind this too. But I liked seeing a different kind of content. I didn't know all the in and outs of how this was meant to be similar, or basically kind of inspired by Beyonce. So y'all kind of schooled me on that with the whole they call it the Swarm for Beyonce. No, but not this is called the Swarm.
It's the Beehive, yeah, her and her family.
The Beehive, right? The Beehive. So I thought that was kind of fun. I thought it was very surreal, like the way they had like some of these things in this episode, in this series were just like, woo! I mean, it's very much like dark Atlanta, like super dark Atlanta at times.
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, I personally would probably put it in just for performance, the actual performance of the lead and the direction of the series. I got to give it at least a B tier just for the actual like production value. I don't think I would ever revisit it. I don't even know how to describe how I felt watching it most of the time.
The ending is also quite. It's not my turn.
Yeah, so y'all can go. Y'all can go. My vote is for B tier, but yeah.
So I think for me, I'm obviously gonna be the biased nigga out of the group because I'm the big horror fan here. I really enjoyed how they conveyed the development of this character, like slowly seeing the Dominique Fishback's character become more unhinged as the show went on. And that, like Ethan said, the performances in this were spectacular between Dominique Fishback, Billie Eilish made a surprising, like amazing performance in one of the episodes, as well as the long cast of other actors that participated in this. I think this was done amazingly. I think there are little things here and there as well, like kind of how I spoke about with The Last of Us, but not really from a form of being a prior IP, but things like writing in jokes about like Paris Jackson being in this and writing in jokes about her having a black dad. It's like little shit like that was like hilarious if you knew who that was and like the reasonings behind things for being written a certain way. And then the shots, like the thing was beautifully well shot. I don't know. I think I want to give this an A. I think I want to put it in A tier. It's not a perfect because the ending was very kind of weird-ish, and I think that like the last two episodes, and there's that one episode that I don't know if it was the second to last or second the one before that kind of like killed the pacing. I feel like I think that episode should have been in the beginning of the show, and it would have ran perfectly to me as far as it like ramping up towards the end. But I think I'd give it an A. I think that ending in that one random episode does keep it from getting that S tier for me. But I'd put it in an A.
Yeah, it's a C for me.
I do.
I thought there were some definitely some good performances. I thought Billie Eilish killed her episode. I thought that the first episode was actually pretty strong as well. But like it didn't really feel like a cohesive story. It felt like almost like an anthology within the life of a person instead of like a full-on flat-out series. I mean, like that's what they're going for. I mean, that's cool, but it's just not something that resonated with me. I don't think that this was a bad series at all, but I'm not putting anything above a C. It's a C for me. So I mean, that averages out to B. We got A, B, C.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I can live with B.
So my question that I have in regards to your point about the anthology feel, like did this need to feel like a cohesive story to you?
Yes.
I think
because I think the way, like at least from my perspective, the way that they were panning it out is for it to be like an anthology, but for you to follow the breakdown of this character. I didn't see it as to be like a super cohesive thing.
Well, I think that's what Otis is saying, is that it didn't feel, because this character didn't feel the character didn't feel cohesive. It didn't feel like you're watching a steady progression of her going from A to B to C. It felt like you're watching her like, this is her at point A, this is her at point D, this is her at point F, this is over here at point B. It's like, wait, why is it seems so a little jumbled, a little jarring, a little mixed up? If it was a straight actual anthology where it had different, like say for example, they had gone with the idea of this is different events showing different women that were part of the actual beehive, that were fans of Beyonce or what have you, showing different stories from different characters' perspectives, that could work. But trying to say this is the same character doing things that don't always seem consistent with this character was a little jarring. That was the thing.
I get that.
You never knew which version of Dominique you were going to get the episode, which was okay if there was a direct, arc showing how you got from her in the first episode to her in that last episode, I would have been okay with that. And I would have been okay with some of the destinations in between it. But, one episode she was seem really cohesive and have, full sentences and is, there and present. Other episodes, she seems like she might be on the spectrum. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know who this character is that you're trying to show me.
I get that. I felt like that was intentional, though. I felt like this character was meant to be like a little bit of a piece of chaos, because even throughout the entire series, things she would do would be random. It's like kind of like mental health. Like, let's say if I'm progressing to get healthier from whatever condition I have, health in that form is never a straight line of health. It's always here. Like if I'm going from something like an addiction, I'm going to have my relapses. I'm going to have my moments where I dip, and I'm going to have my fluctuations into that healing journey. Mm-hmm. And then, which I think you saw that up into that final part where she had seen where she was completely reformed. She had a whole significant other, and then she just relapsed. Right. I don't know. That, at least to me, that's what I took away from the series, I guess. But I'm not beyond giving this a B and settling for that middle. I'm not going to fight too hard on it.
But that makes sense. So I feel like that episode where it showed her with her girlfriend, and it actually showed her like a full healthy life, that she, like you said, that made sense to come at the end, showing that she actually had a full arc in a sense. The thing is, the path there, like Otis mentioned, the first episode was really strong. It showed that she was very much more on the spectrum. She pretty much needed her sister, she was leaning on her very much. And when she broke and killed old boy Franklin Saint, spoiler alert, it's like, oh, okay, that's her snapping essentially, and it's her her downward spiral is starting here. But it seemed like then the next episode she was just, I'm cool being Dexter Morgan, just killing people off, being on the low. It's like, whoa, we went from you going through a huge struggle and everything in the episode A, and then in episode B you're already clearly on the path of mass
bodies,
bodies. Mass murderer. Like,
but I think that was the pattern though. Like you saw her have that break,
but there wasn't.
And then you saw.
That's what we're saying.
No, I'm saying there was one, because you saw her build, like she had that break, had that murder spree, and then you saw her consistent form of codependency, because you saw that when in that Billie Eilish episode in which she felt like she had someone from her family, and then she had that relapse again and went back on that murder spree again, and you saw that build back up into her other significant other, where she was good for a longest time and then had that relapse again. Like to me, that showed that pattern of what I see as addiction. It's kind of like celebrity addiction and codependency. But again, to each their own. It is what it is. you have any other like final thoughts on it before we? Well, we already gonna put it in B. We kind of announced it.
Yeah, we told this before also. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Put that in the B tier. This is one I know O mentioned it, but I could not remember if Ethan had watched the show at all. Love and Death, the HBO show. Okay, did you watch the entire thing?
Yeah, I watched the entire thing. I think y'all know I'm a pretty big Elizabeth Olsen fan. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. We'll start with Ethan. Not Ethan. We'll start with Otis this time. We kind of go from the other direction. What were your thoughts on Love and Death?
I enjoyed it. I didn't necessarily know what to expect from it because I didn't know the original story that this came from, and it was based off of a true story. I figured that there was going to be like some type of turn with Elizabeth Olsen's character as like the season progressed. I mean, like she's like her downward spiral makes fantastic sense, right?
Yeah,
like I see how you get from point A to point Z. Like I got it. Like I didn't agree with like some of the decisions that she made, but it made sense within her character. Her performance was stellar. So I mean, I'll probably give this one like a B. I'll go A.
Yeah, I agree in the sentiments that Otis had with this one. I thought that this one, to me, I think it made more sense because it was more relatable. I feel like you can understand this more because, like with Swarm, that's like a full mental break where it's unpredictable. This one is kind of a predictable plot line of like, all right, she's not in her marriage all the way. She has the infidelity, the jealousy, and all the other things that follow that. Those are things that you see on a more daily basis, and it's more relatable, which I think is what made that show so great, is because you could sort of see where things were going. At least for me, I could kind of see where the plot line was going. And I knew that a murder happens because of the way they filmed it and a lot of the foreshadowing they had through different shots. But it was that journey of like, all right, how do we get from point A to point B? I know what happens at point A and point B, but like, how do we get there? What's that journey like? And I think the way that went down was great. Even in like, I love scenes in this, like the awkward scenes between Elizabeth Olsen and the husband that she was having the affair with. Or just those moments of like showing that romance and that level and that awkwardness that I feel like you get. Like if you guys have dated before, you guys have had girlfriends before, that initial phase you get where like you're on that first date, or like when you guys are like by yourselves for real and you're trying to learn each other's sense of humor or whatever else, and you have that sense of like awkwardness or like weirdness.
Never had a girlfriend with me.
All right.
We can hear from each other background, cracking our knuckles.
I'm waiting for the fucking hot grits to fly through the screen. I want none of that smoke. All right, Casanova. Shit. It felt really well done. Like whoever wrote this script knew how to write people very, very well. And somehow Elizabeth Olsen pulling off that Southern accent worked. I don't know where is she from? Is she from LA? Because there's no way she was from the South, because the accent was too good. It was one of those Southern accents that was too good to be true. Like if you've heard people talk from the South, there are people with strong accents where it's like so strong it sounds like they're putting on a fake one.
Yeah,
and that's what that felt like to me.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
I mean, obviously, Elizabeth Olsen is one of the younger sister of the Olsen twins, and they all grew up they're from Hollywood, basically. Mm-hmm. And so it's funny because her sisters, of course, have all kinds of money and passive income for a role they played in when they were children, itty bitty kids when they were 5 or 6 years old. Yeah, Full House, and that little videos they made with Olsen twin mysteries or whatever that was. But then,
didn't they have something on Disney? I thought too. Like another Disney
they did some of Disney when they were. But again, this is all before they were anywhere near puberty. And then, of course, the actual talented one is their younger sister, who's now getting Oscar nominations and everything else. You're right, Dev. Her accent, because you got to, again, if you compare her performance and her character in this to something like how she was in WandaVision. I just watched Endgame a little while ago. It's like watching her different types of roles she plays. She's a very, very good actress. She probably will get an Oscars sooner or later. And also, there's another version of the same movie, the same story that came out like last year, with Jessica Biel on Hulu. I forgot what it's called now, but his name is named after the main character. But it's not as good as this one. This was a much better portrayal of the actual story, from what I understand. It was much better. It was produced much better, and it was bizarrely enough. Their performance was strong enough to make it work. You can see why where she was coming from, why she would feel the way she did. Not that you agree with it, but you can understand it at least.
Mhm.
And it was a very interesting series. So I'll leave it at that. So yeah, it was compelling. It was wild too, man. It was we haven't gotten at all into like what this is. For those who don't know, the idea that this.
I don't give you too many spoilers away because keep in mind I'm also trying to treat this as like a recommendation thing, I guess, at the same time.
My bad.
So you can get through some points, but like I don't get into too many exact plot points, if that makes any sense.
Fair. Well, all I'll say is this is actually inspired by, or I guess, yeah, I think it says inspired by that based
on a novel. I thought that the novel was based on a true story.
So, yeah, or maybe a novel. Yeah,
I don't know how much of it is true from the novel. Yeah,
right. So I did some a little bit of research to find out how much of this actually was true as far as what the court case played out and everything else. I know that stuff was the main basic beats are there. They are true. So that's unsettling in lots of ways and see how that played out. But it's very, very interesting, very engaging. So yeah, if you get a chance to watch this, I encourage you to watch it.
Felt good to watch a white woman fighting for her life in court for once. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, I can get fully invested in this one. I have no attachments to this. But I think I'd probably give it an A as well. I think I give it
I'm cool with an A.
Yeah. All right, let's slide this thing on up here. That's the first A. Next up, we have Hell's Paradise. We're finally getting into some anime. We have like a good anime run for the next 3 actually. I think I'll kick this one off with Hell's Paradise. This was one that I had, again, kind of similar to Love and Death, and so I had no idea what to expect going in. I'd seen like that one trailer that I think Felicia shared on Facebook a while ago, and I was like, oh, this looks dark. This looks horror-esque. I know about the horror. I'm gonna watch this shit. And then I'm like, oh, he's a shinobi. It's just like everything that I think is cool within me watching stuff. It was just in there one after another. So I'm like, all right, we'll check this out. We'll keep it up. We'll keep up the watch. I enjoyed it. I thought the animation was immaculate. Studio Mappa can do no wrong in that regard. I enjoyed some of the character writing. I will say there's some characters that were more interesting than others. And some felt like a little fan service. I'm not gonna lie to you.
We know which one.
Yeah. But I really so far
her power is oil. Come on, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Thought it was just like your power is to get moist. That's crazy.
It's like he just
all over.
Point blank.
And you come on the niggas randomly. Okay, that's cool. But I enjoyed the main character at least. Gabby Mara. I thought he was cool. I'm excited to find out more about him and like how he works, how his brain ticks. And again, I need more of the fight scenes. I thought that it was a little bit of a slow burn up until when the fighting and the power systems started to come out and get more information on that. I'm excited to go into the second season now that we have that stuff established. So now we can just get into a lot more confrontations now without having to explain too much how that works, I guess, in length. Because I think there are some parts where it was on some JJK shit where it took forever to explain how like a power system worked or how this, not chakra, what was the thing? What was it called? It was some Tao, that's what it was. I'm like explaining Tao, I think they took a little too long explaining that in certain episodes. I'm not gonna lie to you, but now that rudimentary explanation is over with, I'm excited to see what the show has to offer in the next season. I would probably give this a B, I'd say. I'd probably give it a B. And let's move on to Ethan.
Give it a B?
I gave it a B, yeah.
Oh, sorry, my computer's have a little bit of issues here, but you can all still hear me all right?
Yeah, right? Yeah, you're good.
Okay. You giving it a B? Okay, interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hell's Paradise, obviously a Studio Mappa, and they have what they call the Mappa effect. So you gotta remember while they were making this, they're also making JJK.
Right.
I'm not sure how many seasons that they're making. They're also making season 5, part 3 of Titan.
Overworking all their employees to death.
making Chainsaw
Man. Right.
I mean, and then probably some other projects as well. So it's like this, they're getting exhausted. And with this show, if you compare the actual animation quality like this to, say, for example, Titan or to JJK, it's not on that same tier. It's still good, but it's not that crazy level of quality. However, the opening of this series is better than like Otis and I were talking before. Like this is pretty much like there's like when you get into like the S tier openings, it's like a tier eternity.
Yeah.
And this is like it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat. And I did, like you said, Charlie, I really like the characters are amazing in this series. I actually found out about this series from watching some random YouTube video where the guy goes, "Yo, I've only seen 2 episodes of the show, but all the characters are so amazing. I had to keep watching more." And the premise alone, we talked this before in a POI about the promise of the premise. The promise of the premise with this is like, yo, let's take the world's like S tier ranked death row inmates and throw them into literally an island that's going to be hell. Call it Hell's Paradise, and send them there to get a secret formula that can pretty much make you immortal. It's like amazing. It's like, of course, let's go.
It's sort of like a combination of like Baki, One Piece, and fucking and Naruto. It's like, let's get some people with swords and weapons, throw them on this death, like this place is going to kill you, like you're this imminent death approaching. Look for this one thing that's probably that may or may not exist.
I mean, it's a super suicide mission. It's pretty much like the reason they're sending them there is because they're already going to die anyways. It also reminded me of if y'all ever heard of or seen Escape from New York or Escape from L.A., the John Carpenter movie with
Snake Plissken.
Yeah, that's where Snake Plissken.
That's a random movie I saw back in the day. I don't know why I saw that shit, but I did. It was good.
Probably your granddad.
More than likely.
Good man, because it's like that too, where it's like the only person who accepts this kind of a suicide mission is someone who's pretty much already set to die anyways. So yeah, I loved it. And one last thing I'll say too is one of my favorite characters. You all know this already from Hunter x Hunter or Hunter x Hunter is Killua, and Gabimara reminded me of Killua. If Killua didn't meet Gon, but instead kept doing had to be an assassin for his family, and instead fell in love with somebody. This is kind of what he'd probably be like. So,
OG Big Blur, take us on.
Yeah, you to give us a score.
Oh yeah, what's your score? What's your ranking of it? What tier you put it in?
My bad. I gotta be honest, man. I put it in A. That's my personal preference, but it's my kind of show. But I put it in A. I get B.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with most of the sentiments that my co-hosts have shared. B tier animation, S tier premise, because I mean I love putting the baddest of the bad against something even better. Like usually that goes off pretty well, especially if you can have like a actual story behind it and characters that have some depth. I thought they did a really good job in setting up who those characters were and making them feel like people and not just like, tropes to be thrown into a series like I've seen in a lot of anime. The action was definitely top tier to me. I'm gonna go with E and give us an A also.
Okay, hey, first y'all overwrote me. Throw this in the A tier. I'm gonna just go ahead and preemptively go ahead and do this real quick. Let's just throw that up there. Yeah, let's just
honestly, bro. Honestly.
Oh God, don't be that guy.
I'll give it an A.
Okay, so let's before we move this anywhere, let's discuss this. Let's go ahead and start. Go ahead.
So I'm with you, Charlie. I'm putting an A S as well. So he's outvoted. So, but go ahead.
Let's go ahead.
Just because comparing the manga to the anime here, I thought the manga did a better job as per usual of creating depth behind the scenario. But that's not the pacing of this made it feel kind of. The argument is, how did I feel about the show?
My bad. Go ahead. Finish. My bad. I apologize. Go ahead.
I've never cut you off during any of your explanations.
My bad. Don't be my bad. My bad.
But I mean, I think they could have done a little bit more with just pronouncing exactly like how deep some of the scenario was and what the stakes were. I feel like they did a great explanation where Gojo had his moment where saying this is a Agumon and we got to make sure he goes into the Greymon instead of Skull Greymon. Got it. Like that was a cool moment, but it made light of exactly how important that was. That's like basically like Armageddon that they just had to try to stop. And I think they could have added a little bit more depth to that. The animation was, of course, crazy. The characters, getting to see more of Gojo and getting to see Fushiguro's dad. I mean, that was great, but it wasn't perfect. That's why I wouldn't give it an S. It's still an A.
That's fair. And having heard you say that That's fair. I think it's Charlie's turn, so I'll let Charlie go next. But that's fair.
Yeah, I think I don't. So I don't know how much of it you've read, Ethan, as far as the manga.
Not a page. Not a page.
Yeah, I think Otis has that the manga bias in regards to like he knows a different version of this thing, so it's not going to live up to your expectation depending on what it is. I think me and like at least Ethan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think speaking for both of us, going in not knowing what's going to happen, we got the best possible result for what we know happened. Exactly. And just judging that on what it is alone and not off of a different version of that thing.
So, I mean, just to, I said I wouldn't cut you off. Like,
no, you're good. Go ahead. Get your lick back.
I'm more so comparing it to its own first season because the first season of Juju did elevate what was in the pages of the manga. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to see more of that with this. And I think they almost met it. It's like, I mean, again, like how they expanded upon the fights was amazing. Mm-hmm. But I also wanted more of the story impact too. Like, I really didn't think they captured on the fact like that was the last days of that little girl's life. Like, I feel like they could have been more with that.
I feel like they got that to an extent with the different scenes, like her wanting to go to the beach, or them making sure she got to stay at the beach as long as she wanted to. Them showing those like cuts of the life that she would want and the people she would want in her life up until that moment she died. I thought that was. I always love that. I'm gonna call it a plot device, I guess, for lack of a better term, where you have those characters that are like gonna die imminently, and their whole goal is to do what they want to do. And you've seen that in different examples of different things where characters are sick like that. And I thought that was so dope and like sweet to have in this dark ass world, in this universe. It's just exponentially filled with horrors and dark and fucked up stuff. I thought that the character of, oh my God, I'm forgetting Buddy's name now. Megumi's dad. Buddy's name?
Toshiguro,
yeah. Toshiguro. Toji, yeah. The dude he had no curse energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the sword. I thought for one,
you got the same thing as Maka. Yeah.
You said what?
Same curse as Maka.
Yeah. I absolutely adore characters like that, to where you establish this world that's full of these overpowered people in this power system, but then you have somebody that sits completely outside of it. Part of the reason why I love Asta so much from Black Clover, because they just find a different way to make it work. Mm-hmm. Or even like Lee from Naruto, where you have this set premise of what's supposed to be strong and what's supposed to be strength in this world, and somebody that's the complete opposite of that thing somehow it turns out to be one of the strongest people in that world and to make that thing work. And the way they did that with the way he's able to have this infinite void and infinite bag of weapons and make that out. He's as cool as Tintin should have been. I'll put it like that. He's what Tintin should have been in regards to his coolness factor. And I enjoyed those fights he had, especially the ones he had with Gojo. And even getting to Gojo, I feel like I enjoyed Gojo more here than I did in the first season for the fact he's not as broken. Like, he's still broken here, but seeing chinks in the armor and seeing him having to like overcome or outgrow those chinks made me like him as a character more. Because he kind of, to me, had the Superman effect a little bit in that first season, where like Buddy is so godly and like literally untouchable. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how do you even write a good fight for him if he's just going to fuck up everybody damn near instantaneously?
Watch this next season. That's all I'm saying.
Which I get. I know. From the research I've gathered, it's like, I think the only people that he can careful remotely is I mean, they've already established like the strongest.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
You do know. They've established like they've already in the season, like with Sukuna, like him and Gojo are like the two strongest niggas in the verse right now. And there's like some other characters later on, I think, that pop up. I'm not sure how strong they are, but I know like from the first season that these two niggas are established to be the most unfuckwittable.
What's funny about it too, though, is that it shows Gojo like throw hands all over Sukuna like immediately. Like he can't even touch him in that second episode. He's like
first episode.
Because
no, it wasn't the second episode.
I mean, it's fine. It doesn't matter which number episode. But yeah, I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off there, Charlie. But yeah,
no, you're good. I I'm like, how do you write that shit for him? Because again, we'll get into Superman shit and why I love that concept again in the next show. But I loved him in this for the fact that he had chinks in the armor.
So what I see it is, you're saying that there's chinks in the armor. I saw it more like he's still learning, he's still growing. He's literally in school in this kind of a prequel series. Yeah, and it's fun to watch him, like, because one of the things that Otis loves more than anything else is purple. I remember him like geeking out like crazy. He was just texting us purple. When that episode came out a couple years ago, right, in the first season. And this one, he doesn't know how to do purple yet. He knows how to do blue, knows how to do red, and him kind of learning how to do purple is the point. Mm-hmm. So I love seeing learning curves or characters learning how to grow. Like you said, in the first season, Gojo pretty much is already God tier, so it's not about him, his journey at all. This was about his journey. And it's also about the journey of him and like it's Geta, right? That's the character's name.
Geto,
yeah. And seeing their relationship kind of slowly fade apart. But I also, Otis's point, this is only a 5-episode, half season or partial season, what have you. Mm-hmm. The pacing was a little odd. I love the fights and the action were incredible, but it seemed like there was, it was a little choppy at certain times, like showing the life that the girl wanted to have seemed brief, and then she was got, and then it's showing the actual, how the relationship between Geta and Gojo fell apart. It would seem kind of quick too. So, because there's only 5 episodes. We're not getting into too many spoilers, I guess. That's the idea of the recommendation. But I see where Otis is coming from. I think I'm so partial to it because I love Gojo so much, and I'm bringing my own bias from the first season and the movie along with it. However, if I had to be realistic, it probably is closer to an overall A tier. But the thing is, the elements that they do, it's one of those things where the animation is S tier. The characters are S tier. The fights are S tier. The music, y'all. The music was S tier. I mean, like you said, Toji, my God, that dude is just like, he deserved his brolic shirt and bill. I was like, yeah, this dude is
shoulders and shit.
Them shoulders, them traps.
Like our shoulders.
I was okay. All right, this dude deserves it all. I mean, there's a part where we won't get into too heavy spoilers, but he lays down, he hits this one dude. He gets slashed him across the chest once, slashed him across the chest another time, slashes him one more time, then there's a spin kick to him. It's like, and this just owns him, outright owns him, then kicks him in the face when he's down the ground. It's like that's how much of a brawler dude this really is. I mean, I was like, okay, all right, he's that dude. He really is that dude.
Get that Kenpachi timing, boy. He's demon time.
Don't mess with the Zenin clan. That's all I'm gonna say on that for now.
Right, and there's a part too where he actually says something about that, as far as like, yo, my boy is a I do have a kid. In due time, the Zenin clan will come from him. I just want you to know that. And I remember watching that movie, like, oh, okay, that's kind of how things unfold the way they do. So I was very satisfied, but again, I am bringing my own bias. I think the overall execution, if you're factoring in everything, it isn't perfect. It's very, 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 very good, and I really enjoy it. But if S tier is only for perfection, I see why Otis doesn't want to give it the perfect. I would give it an A as well, maybe somewhere between an A and an S. But I see where he's coming from. I get it.
This season to me is like a comparison would be like Shaquille O'Neal, right? Where he has his obvious deficiencies, being like the free throw line, but he makes them when they count. But the other parts of his game, which he uses to dominate, is just so unbelievably dominant to where it's like, the nigga got 3 rings. I'm like, what do you want me to say? Like, he can't shoot free throws for shit, but he's just unstoppable in other areas.
Yeah, I know.
That's this season for me. That's why I would give it the S. Like everything else was so fucking like perfect and spot on. Like I know we mentioned it in the first episode where we talked about how the opening of the episode was so fucking cinematic and like how well it was shot. Like it was shot like a movie. Mm-hmm. It's like shit like that. I'm like, yeah, bro, I gotta give it to it.
Yeah, I mean,
so I'd give it an S.
Yeah, let's keep an S. Again, the Mappa effect. This is Studio Mappa. What it is now, they're pretty much like just flexing. They're just like, y'all steals over there. You're cool. Oh, Toei. Oh, that's cute. You have your One Piece and your Gear 5. That's cute. That's cute. Watch this. Hold my beer. Hold my whatever. I was gonna say hold my sake, but yeah, whatever.
I hope they don't work themselves too much for the second season.
Oh, they do. Oh my God, those people are.
You can't afford it again.
Just know, like, the emotional damage y'all about to get for this next half of this Juju season. I can't wait.
I can't wait either, man. I mean, I know we're getting into heavy spoilers, but there's a part where it shows kind of the different paths these characters take, and one of them it shows him with, the people he's with at the end, and it's a massive and kind of following. The other one it shows his character with his students, and it's just 3 of them, and it's like that's to show the comparison as far as. This is what means the most to this one. This one means the most to the other one. And I got choked up like watching. Oh yeah, that's why he does what he does. I get it. Also now y'all know I'm a teacher too, and when I have my class, I'm like it's the same. At one of my students at the end of the, I'm not gonna cry. At the end of the class last week, as he's walking out, he goes, "Thanks, Professor E. I really like this class. I can't wait to come back for more." And just that simple thing, and he's so earnest about it. I was like, man, I felt it. I was like, I'm about to cry.
They call you Professor for real?
You call me Professor because I told them to call me Professor E. So you call me Professor E. I was like, I felt it. I felt it, man. So I know what it's like. I know what it's like when you actually have your proteges, your students. Actually, you can tell you're getting to them already. So I get it.
You're a real nigga for having them call you Professor E for like that. Yes,
I did the PowerPoint presentation. I said, my name is Ethan Murphy, but I prefer you guys to call me Professor E. I said, can anybody tell me why I go by Professor E? And they had a couple of reasons they gave out. And then one kid, the smallest student in the class, Darwin, goes, is it because of Professor Xavier? I said, yo, you've earned yourself a candy bar. And so it's like exactly why. So
I should have took your class, Ron. I'm nigga, like candy bars for right questions. Nigga, I would have been in that. I would have. Oh
man. But anyways, I'm cool with that.
Diabetes. Moving into the next show. This is one that I've been excited to talk about. Excited to get into. Was it My Adventures with Superman? Is what it's officially called.
My Adventures with Superman.
Yes, sir.
Professor E, you're the big Supes fan in here. We're gonna let you start off.
A word? Okay, I thought you were going first. But I'll keep it brief because I know you want to flex on this one, Charlie. So I do got to give lots of respect to this show because I know even though I do have a very big soft spot for Superman, he's a very big, over the years, people have had problems writing for him. One of the most praised iterations of the character is in All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison, which is a story I don't even like that much. I think it's okay, I get it, but it's like you're still showing him too picturesque. This series is again like Gojo in the last season or Hidden Inventory, where it's like showing him learning how to be Superman, showing him very flawed, showing him very very human, showing him taking L's a lot, showing him feeling bad, and it's done in a way that fits the character. And I really really dig it. Also, I like the idea of him actually having friends that are there to help him with it. And friends that actually aren't idiots. They realize, well, wait a minute, this has got to be Superman. He looks the exact same, just with his hair done a little differently. Or his roommate, Jimmy Olsen's like, yeah, man, I realize it's his first day of the year.
I've been there.
Rip the door off the hinges, my nigga. What did
you do? So it's like, oh, okay, yeah. It's like there's a lot of, bizarrely enough, it's an anime series with some exaggerations, but it makes the most logical sense over and over again. And the last thing I'll say before I let y'all go is like, this is an anime series. The fights, woo! The fights are like, I was like, wow, chef's kiss all over the place. The way they handled Parasite in this, the way they handled even Waller and the General, I was like, this is top tier.
Suicide Squad,
their version of it. Yeah, Suicide Squad. I was like, this is S tier. This is all S tier. So I'm here for it. I'm here for it all. So and also one last thing, I'm sorry, I apologize. The way Jack Quaid, you wouldn't think that Jack Quaid, aka Huey from The Boys, would be the right voice for Superman, but it works in this series. So
that's Huey.
Yes, it's Jack Quaid. It's Huey.
He been on one. He bbeen in some shit lately.
Yeah, he's been on one. Yeah, he's been on one. You just now know that was
never looked it up.
Now he get bitched by Homelander the next season. I'll be like, damn, that nigga. But finally, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. I rank it. Sorry, Otis. I gotta give it an S, man. I'm giving it an S because it's my own personal. I liked it a lot, man. That's what it felt like to me. I can't think of any like real flaws in it, so I gotta give it an S.
I'm gonna let Otis go first. I'll go last.
I mean, it is the most relatable I've ever seen Superman. I can't really like. In any medium, I can't think of like a whole lot of Superman hero stories that I'm like, yeah, like I really like that one, and I want more of that. I want more of this. Like I enjoy watching this show week to week. I'm looking forward to more of it coming out. I don't know if it's gonna end the season where it just stopped it, or if it's gonna continue or go on to a second season. But give me more of that. I can't remember the last time I asked for more Superman content. So. I was thinking more of an A also. I mean, for this, but if Charlie also gives it an S, I'm outvoted there. But really solid show. I can't think of a major flaw behind it. So maybe it is an S. I don't know.
That's the thing. If you can't think of a flaw with something that you like, that's why it's like I get it. That's why. Yeah.
Just because I can't think of a flaw, I might have to give it an S.
Yeah. All right, Soups. His nickname's sake. His nickname's sake.
Yeah, bro, it's about time. It's about damn time. This show, at least in my interpretation of the character, encapsulated everything I felt like Superman was intrinsically, from the human on Earth with God abilities, where first and foremost he wants to be a human being and he wants to live a human life, but he also has this responsibility with the powers that he has. Like, you see him enjoying saving people, but you'll see different episodes in which he's kind of just wishing he was regular so he could live a regular life. And I thought it was dope. I thought the way they portrayed him as like the awkward nerd in the beginning, even in his relationship with Lois, I felt like that made sense for him. I'm like, this dude is a small farm boy in a small town. He's not about to have Riz. He's not going to have the craziest Riz around. Like, he's going to be awkward. That just makes sense. Especially when you're around beautiful women, you're just not used to him like that. You have to get to build up to that, which you saw him do. I also enjoyed the fact that he was able, like you said with the fights, he was able to have these fights in which he didn't just straight up like dominate and kill the fight, but then you also got the sense of this is Superman. Even in the Parasite thing, like, he will win fights in a smart way using his brain and not just like punch man. Like, he wasn't just over like punching harder and winning a fight on some Goku shit. He was actually, well, let me not say that. Like, in some instances, some Goku shit, because I don't want Dragon Ball fans coming from me.
Too late.
Yeah, they're gonna come for me after that one. But he, like, this Superman to me was the best version of Superman I've seen, and that's even over like the JLU stuff where he probably got a little bit more character writing with that stuff. But this is spectacular. I've talked about it before in the show. There's not really any superhero like Superman stories I've been interested in outside of the Death of Superman, really, or the Red Sun, or Injustice, all where he's evil. This is the first one where he's like, it's where he's not either dead or evil.
Villain. He's a better villain. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't even say that. I think this shows how good he could be as a protagonist. I really empathize with him through a lot of this show, and him like having good intentions, but just sometimes fucking shit up and figuring out a way to make that work. Like, he felt much more relatable. He felt like a man that is a god rather than like gods among man. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And that's exactly what it is. That's you hit the nail dead on the head there, as opposed to him being a god trying to fit in a role he doesn't belong and trying to beg for our empathy. It's like, I can't relate to that much. This is very much a person that's almost dealing with the angst of growing up. It's almost a coming of age story in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we don't have the scenes of him literally being Jesus Christ in the sky.
Oh my god!
And I love that.
And they want to give it back to Snyder, bro. And I'm just like,
I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed Man of Steel. Granted, I was 13, 14, but I don't think that was a great I don't think that's a quintessential Superman story. I think it was just a great version.
It had the shades.
At that point, it would have been just because they just haven't handled it the best, in my personal opinion.
I agree. I think what it is that it's still, they don't know how to. They're afraid to show Clark Kent, because I know James Gunn actually wants to double down on actually having Clark Kent be an interesting character. They do it in Superman and Lois, the TV show right now on CW. They're doing it with this. The idea of Clark Kent is an actual person as well. And it is a dilemma for him to actually have to be both Superman and the idea is he really was Clark Kent. It's not like Bruce Wayne and Batman, where his real personality is Batman. He wears a disguise as Bruce Wayne. No. He really is Clark Kent, and he almost wears a disguise to be Superman. I mean, he really was a farm boy for years and years, his whole life. Like you said, Charlie, it's a very different scenario with this cat. So yeah, I'm sorry, Nick, to cut you off.
That's part of the reason why I'm excited about the gun stuff with Superman going forward, knowing that he's writing and directing. Because what I've seen from him so far, like, he does character writing very well, as far as having these characters that are like OD strong or skillful, but like he gives them these personality traits or these backstories that you actually care about to an extent. Which you saw with Harley, you saw with Bloodshot, Peacemaker, the Guardians. Like, these characters are bigger than life, but they have regular people problems that also affect them. They're gods, but they're also men at the same time. So I'm excited to see
the Guardians of the Galaxy. What he did with the Guardians of the Galaxy as well.
Did I not say that?
Maybe you did. I'm sorry, I may have missed that.
No, I'm fucking with you good. I said it, but I was just fucking with you good. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they do with the character going forward. Because if Gunn can reproduce what this show did, I think that the DCA, the new DCA, whatever people want to fucking call it, I think it has a very potentially bright future. I'll say that, potentially bright, because Gunn's not going to direct everything, so I can't just straight give that level of quality to everything quite yet.
Yeah, that's fair. So are we?
It's S. I'm throwing it up there. I'm throwing it up there.
It's also the irony is S. It has to have it's Superman. It have the S for it.
That's on my chest, baby.
It's hard not to give it like what's wrong with it. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like where is it? Yeah, where's
I can't think of anything. Yeah. Animation, storytelling. I can't think of anything bad. It's either great to good.
Also,
I've seen people gripe about Lois. Like, I mean, she's annoying in spots, but I don't think that's enough to detract from the quality of the show.
She just felt like
point. I think she's supposed to be that way.
Consistent to every version of the character I've seen, damn near.
Yeah, I think she's supposed to be that way. That's kind of the point, essentially. Because at the point where he even Clark, Superman, whatever, loses it on her. Like, stop, Lois, you're like, it's actually kind of blows up on her. So it's like, yeah, she's supposed to be a little annoying, I think. Yeah, I dug it, man. I really dug it.
Speaking of annoying,
perfect segue.
Yeah, guys. Velma.
I gave my score already.
I think this show has a lot of. I will say this. Like, this show to me would have been exponentially better if they didn't try so hard to make this the original Mystery Gang. And this was like the children of them doing kooky shit. I think I would have liked this show a lot more. But where myself and a lot of fans are pissed off is that they tried to remake all these characters when you did not have to. You just didn't. And I see where people like sometimes I hate hearing the whole thing about like forced diversity, but I can completely understand what they mean in this one as far as like you even changing the characters. Not changing the names. I know Norville's Shaggy's name, but like you knew what the fuck you were doing. Like niggas know him as Shaggy, or like the fact you made Velma like you completely race swapped her and like completely.
Same with Daphne.
Daphne's Asian now. I'm like, there's no like. Granted, I will say my philosophy to be consistent is that as long as that person's ethnic background is not indicative of their background, like their history, like you're not going to have the Black Panther be Mexican because he's fucking in Africa. That completely fucks that up. And that's not the case here. Granted, these guys didn't have any like ties to their ethnic background, but I feel like with something this loved of an IP that's been around this long, you got to be a little bit more careful because you have to appease more fans. Because at the end of the day, you are already struggling to make some money off of your shit because you were bombing. You gotta be a little bit more careful with something like this. And if they would have just made this show like a sequel of the Mystery Gang kids, and they could do all the kooky shit and do their wild shit, I think I would like it significantly more. That's why I'd probably just give it a C. I'm not gonna lie to you. Because I it's one of those things where like I hated it initially so much more, and we talked about it on the show, but I kept watching it. Like I can't hate it that much if I keep watching this thing, because it's entertaining me to some extent, and I think it did it well enough to give it a C. And if they just took the extra step to make them not the original Mystery Gang, I think it would have it probably could have been like it probably still would have been a C, honestly. But I'll give it a C. I give it a C because some of the humor was very forced, and some of the feminist jokes were. Something like Barbie, right, where they had a lot of information in regards to talking about the feminist movement and the patriarchy, things of that nature. I think there are scenes in that film where they did it in a very nice, subtle way. One of the scenes I love so much in particular, I almost brought a tear to my eye because it was so fucking amazing at subtly giving a message across. This is the complete opposite. It was like everything that right-wing musty niggas in their basements talk about when it comes to like about women power, like be complaining about feminism and things of that nature. This is what that was, because they just made a bunch of jokes and made characters they depower a lot of characters in regards to their confidence and how they acted just because that character was seen as like hyper masculine. We're like, all right, we're gonna take him down the pig just cause. Like, it is what it is. But yeah, I give it a C altogether.
You go ahead.
Okay, the thing about this show, I feel what you're saying there. I actually echo a lot of your sentiments there too, Charlie. I think it would have worked better if this was like the next generation of the mystery. The Mystery Machine is the thing they wrote in. Was it Mystery Gang or
Mystery Gang?
Mystery Inc. Mystery Inc. is what it is. Yeah, it would be better if there was a kind of kids or a modern telling of that. But they have them because it wasn't just race swapping. It was very much FT Signifier talks about how with the show Bel Air on Peacock now, how it's very much, it is a way they should portray remakes. It's a remake of Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Bel Air is a drama of that comedy series. However, the characters are still true to their original selves in most of the forms, and the themes are still true to themselves. With this, it's pretty much like, hey, are you a fan of Scooby-Doo in any iteration? Well, too bad, because none of this is at all like Scooby-Doo. They have a little bit of the mystery, a little bit. They have a little bit of the idea of a character being who they portray themselves to be. But other than that, it's so far away from what it was originally that if you actually are a fan of any of the property, the IP, it's almost insulting what they did with this. I'm not a hardcore fan, so I'm not super outraged, but it's just so far off the mark, and the jokes are so, like you're saying, Charlie, they're so forced. You're right. In Barbie, there are a lot of parts that it has a message and agenda, sure, but it's very much, Greta Gerwig is a better writer, and she's able to portray her message with much more subtext and subtlety. This is just so ham-fisted in your face, and it can be very funny at times. I've laughed watching it, but it's also like, all right, you gotta lay off the gas pedal some here. Give us a break, chance to kind of breathe. You're going a little too hard. You're trying a little too hard here. So yeah,
also, two things real quick, just really quick. Shout out FD Signifier. We go forget that nigga on for an interview. That'd be dope. I love his
He
content.
probably would. He's the dude that I know he's busy as balls, but he's kind of guy that definitely would try actually.
Let me see what I can get shaken. And also I've never talked about it on the show, but I grew up a big Scooby-Doo fan. I had Scooby-Doo lunchboxes, bed sheets, Scooby-Doo themed rooms growing up. I loved Scooby-Doo growing up. And this was just like, damn. I'm not as hardcore of a fan as some of the musty niggas in the basement. But I really enjoyed this growing up and still do with the nostalgia aspect of it. But yeah, there's some things that could be better.
Yeah, so I give it a I give it a C as well. They were trying, again, it is not without any merits. It is not without any merits. The animation is amazing. And some parts are really genuinely funny. So I can't deny that, but it's just so far off the mark. It
felt blatant. It felt like they were just telling fans, "Fuck you!" Like this, like it felt like
they are at points, and they literally do say that kind of at one time. Also, there's literally no Scooby. It's one thing to misrepresent a character.
I didn't even say that. I didn't think
about have them in there. So yeah, C at best. Otis, you can go, brother.
Yeah. So I was also quite a large fan of Scooby-Doo as a kid. Hex Girls was one of my first animated crush from the Witch's Ghost. You know what I'm saying? Zombie Island.
Yes, it's great.
When he had the race in Transylvania, I can't remember what that was called, but all those movies I used to watch on repeat as a kid. So I mean, I was definitely quite a big fan of Scooby-Doo. So I mean, just to see that they intentionally went out the way to break characters away from the molds of who they were for decades, I definitely didn't appreciate. I'm with Charlie. Race swapping again. As long as it's not like a part of like their identity, then of course, whatever. But it's one thing to race swap, personality swap, role swap. There was nothing similar about how any interaction had between the core members of the gang and in this series as to what they did in any iteration ever. I was okay with them trying to go more towards an adult crowd with it. I mean, because they're dealing with adult concepts. People trying to rob banks and
getting murdered.
Yeah, literal murder,
murders.
Actual hauntings,
Actual
yes, going with a darker tone with that, I could see how that could work, absolutely. But when you beat the horse of metal humor down to just a non-existent, just make one non-meta joke once, please. And I'm okay. I like meta humor. Rick and Morty does it very well. You don't have to make every 2 seconds a joke on yourself like repeatedly. Dear Lord, like I really find it hard to find things to enjoy about it other than the darkness of like actual like the plot that was going on. Like I found things to kind of enjoy about that, but man, they just found ways to just make that also unenjoyable in the end too. So I mean, yeah, I give it a. I'm not gonna give it a V for Velma. Let me be fair. I'm just gonna give it an L. It's like, what the fuck is this?
I'll say this, nigga. I knew what this show was gonna be from the opening line of the show when it was like, some people think the mystery game was founded by Fred, the white masculine man, but no, it was me, the brown skinned. I was like, okay.
Oh,
okay.
I didn't. God, that was. Like, here we go. Here we go.
I see what this is gonna be.
Here we go. It's yeah. I think it's probably fair for us to give us a D. Then I mean, given that it's probably pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm not mad at the D. I'm not gonna play it too hard.
Like this shows the reason why right wingers push terms like woke agenda. It's like
yeah.
Hey, nigga, I ain't gonna lie to you though. If that you guys seen that like that horror skit of the show where Scooby Doo was like where Scooby Doo popped up and he was like a demon or some shit, like a multi-dimensional being.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hey, if they go with that twist for this show, that shit jumps to an S. Because you got me hating the show and I get to watch these niggas get murdered off in the worst way. Oh yeah, that shit shoots to an S for me immediately. I ain't gonna lie to you. If I get a season of that shit,
it'd be one thing if it was going broad.
Another season.
Probably.
Yeah, I think it was already signed up for
one. Recorded second season already.
Yeah, I think I already renewed it for second season a while ago.
Because you gotta remember they based this shit off of like the following, and because Mindy Kaling's attached to it, and she has a perceived big name, I think it's so weird to me because I saw a lot of people of the Hindu culture, like and Indian women, like talking about them hating her with a passion.
Yeah.
So I'm like, who is her audience? Well, I know who her audience is, but.
Well, also the reason the show got a season 2 is it had numbers. It actually, I mean, people love to hate watch this. People hate watch this in droves, and it blew up the internet as far as everyone talking about. Everyone and their mom was talking about this show. Of course, they're gonna give that second season. So I get it.
It'll probably die out in the second season. Probably, I think the hate for it just get old.
Yeah, it'll probably die out. It's if they had just said, let's not make this. Let's just not make
just
this.
Just finish that there. That's it. Let's not make this.
Boy, but we can move on to something. Moving
on
to something else that's controversial too.
Also, I'm gonna go ahead and just move this on up here.
I don't.
Come on now. We all saw that last episode.
We all saw the whole series. I don't know about that.
I'll say this to get it out the way. I've said it before. I think I'm gonna stand by this. I think this is probably one of the better written shows of the MCU so far. Probably the best to me in regards to character moments. I thought that the conversation between characters and like their relationships and also the parallels they had to certain things. Like they had there's one particular scene in which they were discussing. They're in the church, and the song they were singing was oh my god, what's the name of the song? I'm blanking. It was the Negro spiritual. Because I had to sing this like an opera, a Negro spiritual opera that I had to sing in college.
Yeah, I know this. I can't. I have no idea the name.
Something about me being home. Like there was little things like that paralleled what was going on in scenes. And I also really enjoyed the acting of Don Cheadle, of him like acting like himself but off, I guess, for lack of a better term. For people knew it wasn't Rhodey, but like, how can you give that to me in a constructive way? And there were subtle things he would do that were it was on brand but not on brand. If that makes any sense. With that character. And then also Sam Jackson is being Sam Jackson. Like they let him be him. I think he was in enough scenes in his own show, to be quite frank with you. Because the scenes he was in were fucking spectacular. The scenes in which you got to let him just like monologue were spectacular. And I thought a lot of the moments he had with like, any moment where Sam Jackson is emoting with another character or discussing his relationship with them, those were the peak moments of the show to me, where he's just talking to everybody in his relationships with them and what he's doing and what he's gone through. That was peak Secret Invasion. I think the show falls short in a lot of the other Skrull characters that weren't really fleshed out as much. Like it felt like they tried to, they were telling assumed that we cared about them more than we did off rip, especially being old boy's daughter. I'm sorry, I did not care for her that much for you to give her that super huge boost power up at the end for no reason. I thought they killed off the main antagonist a little too early. I would have loved to see him in something else down the road, because he was very interesting in how he portrayed himself, and seeing him in Nick Fury face off in something else down the line would have been dope. And he probably could have been. I thought he was going to be Super Skrull, like down the line. I thought he was going to be here for a while. Yeah, man, this show had a lot of potential and a lot of like great parts, but it fell short due to some inconsistencies and some pacing of the show being very much so off. Yeah, it'd be like every other episode, I'd be like, ooh, I love that. Ooh, that was mid. Ooh, I love that. Ooh, that was mid. And then at that last episode was just like, what the fuck? So yeah, I'd probably give this a C. I give it a C.
You next. You can go, Charlie. I'm sorry, Charlie. You can go, Otis.
Yeah, so I thought that this was the most. No, because Moon Knight exists, so I can't say that. But this was the second most inconsistent show that they put out for the DC. Because like some episodes were like really, really good, and then I'm like, Khaleesi, like just get a spinoff, because we haven't liked you in anything else that you've done since. I'm sorry. You seems like a very nice person.
Mm-hmm.
But like nothing, not a single role I've seen her in outside of
Game of Thrones.
This has been a hit for me.
Yeah.
And this was continue to not be that. Maybe she can grow in the role, hopefully, because we're gonna see her more often if she's there. Yeah, not enough Sam Jackson. The only other character I really cared about in this series, he killed off.
You didn't enjoy his wife?
She was okay. She was there.
Yeah.
Like, I like the concept of his wife more than the execution of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a C. It is not a terrible show. I would not dissuade anyone from watching it, but Marvel do better.
Yeah, this show is I'm trying to look up see where it actually is as far as I know on the Rotten Tomatoes.
I think it's the lowest rated the series.
Show. Yeah.
I think it's the lowest rated series, and yeah, which is bizarre. Which I don't know if it's due that.
It's like
wild to me,
Moon Knight
niggas
exists. Like, did you not watch Moon Knight?
That's wild, because niggas straight up like hated WandaVision. They hated on WandaVision when that first dropped. They're like, this is so weird. This is too slow. Yeah. And I'm like, niggas still watched it and enjoyed it by the end of it. I'm like, all right, bro.
It's getting nominations for Emmys.
She-Hulk happened. Like, that last episode of She-Hulk was a thing that really, like, happened.
We didn't put that on here either. I don't know why we didn't put that on here. There's a bunch of shows we could have put in on here.
Well, that's from a while ago.
We can do a part two.
But these aren't recent though. Yeah, so looking at it right now, it says
we can add on to this list for the rest of the year. That might be a cool thing. What you guys think?
Works for me.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that.
Shouldn't be too hard to add stuff in.
I mean, we're running out of space, so we got to figure something out with that. But looking at it right now on Rotten Tomatoes, it has Secret Invasion for the tomato meter. With the critics, is at 54%, and with the audience, it's at 49%. Now, obviously, we all know that Rotten Tomatoes is kind of a weird measuring system, anyways, but it is what it is.
It's never accurate to me.
It's kind of a mess. But I'm with y'all. I mean, I'm definitely with Otis, is that it's very inconsistent. I know Charlie has his biases towards Sam Jackson and some other things. He says it's the best written show. I'm not even sure what the written show. Well, actually, for me, it's Wolf by Night. Night by Wolf or Wolf by Night. Yeah, that's my favorite one.
Yeah,
it's a movie. It's not even really a show though. So
I saw that. Yeah, me and Otis had that dialogue like what, last week or earlier this week?
Something like that. Week or two ago.
Yeah, it's the best episode. But so for this, one thing I will give it is that it looks the way it's shot. It looks very cinematic and it's well done. The cinematography looks like almost like something from Roger Deakins. It's really cool. And Sam Jackson is definitely there doing his thing, but it's a bit slow. Like I found myself having problems watching it because I'd just be falling asleep. And it was when I did have moments that were interesting or engaging, they were kind of few and far between at times. I did want to see more of old boy as a super Skrull, but that of course isn't going to happen. Maria Hill died very, very unceremoniously, and they were just gone.
Random as fuck for no reason.
Like,
Yeah,
and she was a light character. That was unnecessary.
yeah. It's like to do it that way is like,
and no impact at all. It was just
very
dead now.
Yeah,
be sad, nigga.
Wow.
That's all it was.
So I mean, it was cool to see Rhodey as as a scroll, and I mean, I guess
that was also solid.
I mean to do that. I apologize, but
people already knew. People already knew.
Okay, but so it definitely had. It's not without merit. Again, it's not without merit, but I just wasn't as engaged with this show, and I think part of it too. I'll be completely honest. I was experiencing a little bit of Marvel fatigue, not even superhero fatigue, but just Marvel fatigue. I mean, I've seen so many of these shows on the on Disney Plus, right? And they've all been kind of lackluster, after Moon Knight, especially, I was like, God damn, I'm what is going on here? And then Quantumania hit, and it's like, okay, I'm kind of like, I'm a little exhausted from this world and seeing these things. So it just wasn't really hitting for me that hard. I got to be honest, I probably give it a C. I did like seeing Emilia Clarke trying something besides being Khaleesi, but even that wasn't all that great. So I give it a C.
So you want to see a Sarah Connor?
Oh, was
Sarah Connor for real?
She was Sarah Connor in
yeah, she was.
And what I would say is the worst Terminator movie is Terminator 5, right? She was in 5. Yeah.
5 or 6, one of them.
I think it was 5.
I lost count.
Also, Jack Courtney is a John, not John. What's his name? Kyle. Kyle Reese in that one. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Last
thing I'll say about this, I'm not going to get too deep into it because I'm going to talk about this whole concept on a stream at some point on the Captain Diesel Twitch/YouTube. Yeah, go give that a follow. I think Marvel is suffering from a dilemma with the fans as well, where them niggas took a decade plus to cultivate and build this universe out and build up characters that people enjoyed. And granted, in the process, had a lot of bad movies in the process, so that's no excuse. I feel like they're trying to sprint to get back to that point with all these shows and movies because they keep introducing this huge cast of characters and trying to make you care about them within 3 episodes when we got an entire decade to care about Tony Stark and Thor, these C-list characters in the grand scheme of superhero-dom that nobody liked initially, but you had time to grow and love these characters, even through their bad movies. And you're just forcing these people on me and not giving me any time with them. I think a lot of these shows probably could have been stretched out. I think most of this shit, half of these shows should have came out maybe 2 to 3 years from now, and we should have had either a second season of these shows, or they should just took more time. All these shows feel rushed, and that's what I'm getting from majority of the MCU shows up until this point. Besides, maybe WandaVision was the only exception to me. I feel like that was somewhat properly paced. Besides maybe the last episode was kind of rushed, but besides that, most of these shows just feel hella fucking rushed. Because it'd be an episode or 2 of establishing their backstory and what their powers are, and then it's just go from there. Miss Marvel being the key example of that, where it was all right, here's her as a person, and then now her entire backstory and all the shit she's connected to of her ancestry. I'm why? I blinked. I slept. I think I slept through half the one episode, and I feel like I missed 3, and it was the same episode. I was like, what the fuck is this? Woke up and I watched.
I know exactly which episode it was because they was going to her ancestor. I was like, wait, what?
I was like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, and it's Marvel.
We was just in today,
And I think part of that also comes from the fan that that's the one part I will put on fans. I think fans are too impatient as well. I think fans are expecting Endgame and Infinity War a lot faster. And
I don't know that they are.
I just want
because every show I see, they will just compare it to the old shit. I get it that was there, but give them time to cultivate some shit, and niggas don't rush everything.
Well, that's the thing, though, Charlie. You can go, Otis.
For a couple of the franchises, I feel like their first movies were their best movies. So, give me a good introduction to some of these characters. That's what I want. I don't need you to give me Thanos day 1, but if you're giving me somebody, if you're introducing me to somebody, let me like them a little bit. So, I feel like the best series that they had has been Loki, but we already knew who Loki was.
Loki. Yeah.
So outside of Iron Man 1, which heroes that you to your point had their best first movie? Their best movie was their first movie outside of Iron Man.
Iron Man 1, Thor 1. I said a lot. Ant-Man 1.
Yeah, definitely Ant-Man. Definitely Ant-Man 1. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 3 are both good.
Guardians.
Yeah, one and 3 are both pretty solid, but 3 is a better movie to me.
3 is a better movie overall.
That's the best one. But that's like what 4 out of like the fucking 30 heroes they established in that fucking series.
Well, I think what it is, what you're saying though, Charlie, you said before how fans are demanding we need Endgame right now. No, we are not. We are not at all. I think the thing is we've gotten used to long form storytelling, and like you said, the pace of things before this was Phase 4, right? Phase 4 had so much deluge of content. It was like we were bombarded with stuff. It's like, yo, man, we are literally fatigued. It's too much. We don't need all this stuff. It used to be back in the day we get like 1 or 2 movies max, and we were good with that. That was fine, and it was cool to build up anticipation. It was cool to build up actually, investing your resources into something, making sure they had the best kind of quality, as opposed to just like throwing everything at the wall at people and then expecting them to actually care about it, and it becomes a cluttered mess. Like the reason that the original first 3 phases worked so well up to Endgame over those 10 years is because you got a chance, like you said, to know these characters, learn these characters, get invested in these characters. And we're just getting so many flashes in the pan of these characters' moments. It's like we can't get a chance to catch our breath. And because they're so experimental with all these shows and things, it's like it's a bit much. It's a bit
so
much.
I say that for the fact of I think fans were more patient in the prior phases. Like we had a Thor Dark World, we had an Iron Man 2 and 3. Like we had plenty of really bad movies in between, and fans were like, "Yeah, this is ass," but we'll wait until the next one, because when you waited, then you get a Guardians, then you get Infinity War, then you get I'm not gonna say Iron Man because niggas were waiting for a long time before we got Iron Man. You get a Civil War because that first Cap movie was not it. Like you get those really big hidden gems in between all that mediocrity and bad movies generally. And I think fans were critical, obviously, but now this feels like the niggas have pitchforks where they're just like, we want that shit. Granted, I understand because your standards are raised, so you want that thing. But I'm like, don't forget how this went beforehand. This is just how shit goes when it comes to building this up with them. Like, they have a big enough sample size to understand what they can provide.
But what you just kind of said is a bit of the difference, right? You're saying like, you got Thor 1, 2, and 3. You got, Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. In this phase, they're just introducing big sets of multiple characters with no follow-up of them. So we don't get to see like a progression of them. We don't get to like grow to like these people more. We're just like, yep, this is Moon Knight. Now this is Eternals. Now this is Black Widow movie. Now this is Hawkeye. Like, and we don't see any of these characters again. We don't see any of the events from the individual pieces add up to a bigger effect on the whole. Like there is no build-up. It's just like splat all these new things. Have fun with that.
But I think we'll get there at some point. I think like because before, like you saw Thanos pop up in what was it, Avengers 1, I think, when you first saw him in the cutscene. Yeah. And the next time you saw him was what? Like the
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians? Like you did like that, you knew that was the final thing, but you didn't see him that often. You got all these other movies.
But he kept
you
popping
didn't know
in.
how it would tie together.
But I think also it was to your point though, Charlie, you said that it used to be that we would have a hit or a miss here along the way. It's like, yeah, that's true. We'd have a hit or a miss along the way. Like in the phase 1 of MCU, if y'all remember, it had Iron Man, then it had the Incredible Hulk. That was 1 year. Then it was like 2 years later, it had Iron Man 2, and then it had I think it was in the next year, it was like Captain America and then Thor. And then later after that, a year after that is when they had Avengers. So they took their time, but they had hits, they had misses, but it was okay because it wasn't just with phase 4, it was a lot of just like miss, and it wasn't building up towards anything. It's like yo. So we'll forgive a misstep here or there, but if all you're doing is missteps over and over and over and over again, and it's not going towards anything, like Avengers the first Avengers movie was a saving grace because it pretty much, even though it was greater than the sum of its parts, essentially. All those things are building up towards that. When you have it that they're all the sum, that there is no sum. It's a bunch of random parts that build towards nothing. It's like this gonna. Right.
And that's the part I give. That's the part I put on the studio as well. I think they realize like, oh, our brand is so strong, we can just put out shit and we know people are going to see it because it's pop culture now. Like our brand is pop. People like when I see anybody's social media platforms or whatever else, it's like, oh, Marvel fan. And these are people that I know from interacting with them aren't the biggest comic book nerds or have a knowledge of these characters. They're fans of Marvel, of the MCU, not really fans of Marvel per se. So they're going to watch it just because, again, it's part of the it's what's in right now. For how long that is, I don't know. But yeah, that's what like Marvel's just in.
But what's funny about it too, says real quick, is that because at my job, I see so many people that are super casuals of like the MCU essentially, and watching and talking to them about how they're almost ashamed to admit that they don't really like a lot of the stuff that's coming out lately, because they're like, oh, I like the movies and stuff like that, but the shows, or they refer to everything up to Endgame and how they enjoyed it, or like it's this because the reason that the MCU became what it wasn't because of the comic book fans. It was because of the super casuals, just moviegoers that wanted to watch this type of stuff. If the super casuals are now like, yo, what is this stuff? If they're turning on you, your brand is really getting sullied. Because the hardcore, diehard comic book fans, of course, are going to be there. They're going to give these experimental things a try. But the super casuals, if the super casuals fall off, your bread and butter is gone.
Right. And what I will say, to give this some grace, I know they had a lot of complications with the pandemic and like having to do reshoots and re-edits, and in a lot of different shows, you could tell that like from the editing standpoint, that they had to like, I know especially with like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they had a whole subplot they had to cut out because it was virus oriented. So that's why I've been giving it some grace. I haven't really put too much like the only show I will say I was genuinely excited for was Secret Invasion because of Sam Jackson, and probably Moon Knight because I got introduced to him through Ultimate Alliance as a kid, so I was invested in that character somewhat. Besides that, I was like, all right, the rest of them, it is what it is. Not that I expect them to be bad, but I'm giving it some form of risk because I know you had to make a lot of changes on the fly after production was already damn near done. Yeah. But yeah, that's the last thing I'll say about it. I'm not going to rant on Secret Invasions too much more.
Yeah, we've been on for 20 minutes already.
But I think we all give it a C, right?
C is fine. Our first C, nice. Okay.
Now for a palate cleanser, well, possibly, I don't know. Harley Quinn season 4 or 3? Season 4. This has been cool so far. I think I think as this show goes on, it's starting to lose a little bit of its luster from the first season to me. But I still do enjoy the characters so much more. Like the story isn't as interesting to me, but I'm enjoying I enjoy seeing Bane, I enjoy seeing Harley, Ivy, and fucking what was JB Smooth's character, the Plan. I can't remember the Plan's name. Like those, like the fan favorite characters are still back. They're still doing their thing. But the overall plot, I think that in previous seasons, the plot had a sneaky level of depth. I mentioned in a post I had before, kind of something similar to like Adventure Time or Steven Universe, where there's all this like bright shit going on that's happy or funny or whatever else. But then underneath, you have this consistent layer of deeper writing that kind of keeps the show trotting along. And I don't really see that as much here in this season. This season kind of seems kind of sporadic to me, like more of a traditional like cartoon versus what it was before. That being said, I'd probably give this season a C as well. I'm not gonna lie to you. For me,
Otis, you can go because I actually haven't seen any of season 4. I watched the first 3, so I haven't seen any of season 4. No, I haven't seen any of season 4. But
I guess when we talked about it at some point,
maybe we talked about have you seen it, and I said no. but season I enjoy. I see what you're saying as far as the Steven Universe or the Adventure Time effect. But it was one thing I will say real quick is this kind of feels like what Velma should have been as far as like it's able to have fun and poke fun at the IP and the world, the established characters, without being outright character assassination. It's very much the progression of the characters too in a different medium and a very R-rated take on things, still being humorous, still being kind of vulgar, but having fun, where Velma doesn't do that as much. So I did enjoy the first 3 seasons. I enjoyed seeing the relationship between Harley and Ivy and the character growth of these. I enjoy even Joker's character growth. It's fun that they do poke a lot of fun at Batman himself, his relationship with Robin and Alfred, but it's definitely Commissioner Gordon. But it still works for the most part. I mean, it's definitely not perfect, but it works for the most part. So I haven't seen season 4.
Bruce isn't even in this season really at all. Damn near. Like I think
he's not. He's in jail.
Yeah, I think they even go to the jail for an episode for like a little bit, and that you still don't see that nigga. I'm like, okay,
he was in there.
You see him like, I remember seeing him like slightly because he was like,
I'm not gonna say what it was.
He interacted with a character that was going to jail, and I was like, oh, okay, that's it. We had all that shit built up from last season, and we don't even like mention him more than that. Okay, cool. I guess that makes sense.
So I mean, you can go. I put it. I can't grade it because I haven't seen season 4. So
if I would have known that, I wouldn't have put it on here. I just assumed you watched it because I thought we talked about it.
I mean, the show overall, I would from the first 3 seasons, I would give it a B, but I haven't seen season 4, so I can't rate it fairly. But I'll just,
Yeah, I mean, I kind of echo some of Charlie's sentiments. I mean, the plot of this one, especially further into the season, seems to almost undo certain things about the first 3 seasons, and I don't love that. I'm usually pretty against that, especially if there's not like a clear-cut reason for those things to happen. I probably give it about a C as well. Like, it's not bad this season, and I am still invested in the characters that I've enjoyed in the first 3. But like, the narrative of this one isn't really compelling. They don't, like, I felt like through the first 3 seasons they found a good way to kind of reimagine certain things about characters, and I don't think they've done a good job this season of like giving us something new or that feels different from the norm of what you expect through DC stuff. But I mean, besides that, like it's not a bad show. But I'll probably give it that C as well.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, my bad. Fucked up. There we go. Okay. Moving on into, again, another thing I'm usually biased about being Star Wars, and Mando season 3. Man. I'm gonna let one of y'all two go first. I'll go last.
Oh, did you go first? Your turn.
Yeah, this is weak. I can't really think of too many high points about this particular season of Mando besides the overall quality of, like, the sets. I mean, and the shots they get. I mean, like, the aesthetic of the show is never going to be bad. It's because of how much money Disney puts behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the as per usual in like almost every Star Wars thing, there's a pretty solid hallway fight in there.
That is a trigger. Like, that's
crazy. Like, there are so many things I just didn't hit for me, and I'm give this the non-spoiler version, so I'm not going to knock down through every single thing, but it seemed like he became a side character within his own show this season.
There was an episode he wasn't even in, right? Did that happen? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Mandalorian wasn't in The Mandalorian. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I didn't love that. I'll probably giving it a D. Probably giving it a D for this season. Not saying that I like the series is burned to me or anything like that. I'm gonna watch more of their content, but this was a lower point for me.
Okay. Yeah, I would give it a. I mean, I wasn't too impressed with. Again, the aesthetic, the special effects are very strong. It's always cool to see, little baby Grogu doing his thing and coming into his own with his powers. And I did like the I think the season finale was by far the best episode. The kind of showing that war, showing all of them going at each other.
That was the good episode.
That was a really good episode. But there's a lot of up to it was like, what is going on here, fam? And the idea, there were some things that if you think about the actual breakdowns of the themes, like the way, like, I mean, I don't give a shit about spoilers. This has been out forever. The ideas of like, I'm giving you the dark saber because you saved my life. That's not the same thing as someone beating you in a fight. Also, it seems more unearned. Also, why is Jack Black and Lizzo? It's a lot of like. It's a,
oh my god! I love Jack Black. Why?
But you saw that episode. So it's a lot of like, okay, all right. But the thing I did like at the end, I still like the relationship between Grogu and his dad, and the idea that he actually officially adopted him. He said, "This is my son. It's officially my son." I think that's pretty cool. So if it was more back to form, Grogu and Mando doing their thing, or Din Djarin doing their thing, cool. But it definitely wasn't. It was a lot that wasn't that. So I give it a. you said a D. I give it a shit. I because I did like that episode so much, and I did like their relationship. I give it a C, C minus, C minus.
That's the review.
So this is where a little bit of my bias will come out here. I thought in regards to Din and Grogu, they, like you said, they were really side characters in this story, which is wild to me because it's their story. I think I love Grogu, but I think the baby thing is getting really old for me really fast. I keep seeing season after season where he's like showing the potential he has as a Force user and as a Mandalorian Jedi. Even in this season, they full-fledged made this nigga a Mandalorian. I'm like, okay, at some point, I understand he's aging really slowly and his race lives very long. We want to age this nigga up at some point to have him do something. Because this is getting old. I can only see him like fight insects and like small animals so many times before I get really fucking bored.
Yeah.
Din Djarin as well. I feel like Din Djarin was like a crazy pacifist through a lot of the show outside of the badass hallway scene he had.
Yeah.
The only reason I don't absolutely hate it and will give this season a D is because it involved another character that I really loved in Bo-Katan. Watching the Clone Wars, I thought her character was really dope, and I really thought it was cool that she got some more development after that. Because you already know how they do Clone Wars multiple times. I would like canceling it or not giving it its just due. I think they finally before this finished it with that 8th season, and gave her a little bit more character depth. And I think her arc, I think they finally closed it out here. Like honestly, like I think Filoni and Favreau were like treating these shows as like a way to like, at the end of the day, we wanted to bring back the Clone Wars. We wanted to bring back our characters at the end of the day, and they used everything else as a catalyst to get the Ahsoka show in there and get Bo-Katan in so they could finish their story they wanted to tell originally. That it didn't get to
plus, he has a movie coming up.
Like.
His movie, the Filoni movie, is going to have, I guess, some of these things in it too. So.
Which I'm glad for. Again, the best parts of Star Wars to me involves them and their original characters, like Cad Bane, like in Ahsoka Tano. All those characters I think are like the better written characters within Star Wars outside of different versions of Anakin in the Clone Wars, at least, and Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars. So I thought it was cool. I'm so glad the Darksaber is gone now because niggas have been milking the Darksaber since the animated series. I'm like, okay, I get this thing's important. I get that the first Mandalorian built this thing. Can we get rid of it or do something to where it's not the main plot point for now multiple seasons of different shows? Like for an entire season of Rebels, it was a main thing. It was a main thing for an entire season of the Clone Wars. Now this, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of over it now. Let me see. Was it Prime Vizsla or I can't remember the original Mandalorian's name. I'm at a point now where the Mandalorian we're like, okay, I'm over this generation of Mandalorians because they're soft serve. They are a shadow. They're a shadow of what they used to be. I think now is a time where you try to use Din Djarin to segue into the Old Republic version of the Mandalorians, where they got their popularity and their strength from the fighting Jedi in war, the Mandalorian Jedi War. I think I want to see that on screen in a movie format in the worst way, because I think that would just be so fucking beautiful cinematically to see Jedi and Mandalorian in a full-fledged fight, and then you can sprinkle in some Sith here and there for different things. I'm more so excited for what's coming in the future with Star Wars because they've already announced stuff like the Ruler 2 with the Acolyte and different things of that nature, and they've announced the different eras of Star Wars that people are interested in, like the New Republic, the High Republic, the Old Republic, the eras that are really going to be interesting, and we know those are coming. This shit is just like it feels like filler right now. This season felt like a filler season to me. Mm-hmm. I'm praying that the next season is more full. This felt kind of like empty calories to me as a season in a filler season, especially again for the main fact of the main two people we cared about getting more of, we barely saw.
Yeah. All right. So where are you ranking it?
I'm giving it a C.
Okay. All right. Cool.
The 2 Ds and a C is a D.
Yeah. I ain't mad at that. I'm not mad at it. All right, for the palate cleanser now. We've had enough disappointments. I think. Well, I don't know about Otis. Otis is a wild card sometimes. I don't know. I've heard you say good things about both of these, but I feel like just to be the contrary, you're gonna fuck with this. I'm gonna let Ethan go first. I heard the most about this show from you originally first.
Oh
and
yeah,
first
yeah.
makes excitement first.
That's right. Yeah, because I thought I stumbled on it randomly on Netflix. I was like, what is this? Because what it was one of those times where it had a preview. You know, if you're on Netflix, you stay on there. If you hover over something long enough, it pretty much plays a trailer whether you want it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And the premise was because I mean again, promise of the premise is a character finds himself in a job that he hates for many years, and then it turns out that a zombie apocalypse happens, and he realizes, yo, I've been a zombie at my job for so long that now I get to break free and live the life I want to live, essentially free from that. However, it's inevitable that I will turn to a zombie. So this is my bucket list of things I want to do before I become a zombie. Not before I die, which is pretty much the same thing, but things I want to do before I become a zombie. And I was like, yo, that's such a cool, different premise. It's also like almost a fun spin on a dystopia, zombie dystopia, kind of similar to Zombie World. I was like, yo, I gotta check this out. And I ended up liking it a lot. The more I watch of it too, the better it gets. It finds its footing that much more. The last episode I saw, I haven't seen the newest episode, but the last episode I saw, he fights spoiler alert, he fights a shark on land, dressed up like a superhero in a water suit. And I was like, yo, this is pure anime, and it is awesome. Pure awesome. So I have fun with it. I think it's a fun show. And y'all know I'm biased, extremely biased towards zombies. Oh, and I love some zombies. Charlie loves some horror. So I feel like it's doing zombies in a fun way, a different way, different enough. I gotta go high. I gotta give it at least an A. I gotta give at least an A.
I felt like so zombies for me. I love horror. Zombies were one of those things that I feel like were so overdone by this point because it's one of the older like monsters that you have ever seen in like a monster flick period. Like zombies they've been around for a very long time. So I feel like you've seen damn near every version of a zombie you could think of from different films and takes on the monster itself. This was so refreshing to me for the fact of it came at it from a different perspective of the zombie apocalypse being a paradise, honestly, instead of it's like it was a really good switch up on it. And as somebody who's currently in a fucking job that they hate, I felt that the relief so much of like, man, the world's over with, but at least I don't have to go to work and I can do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Exactly, yeah.
If I want to sit in my room all day and drink beer, I'm gonna drink beer. Fuck it. I really enjoy this show, man. It's different. It's refreshing. It's still horror. I love the animation and the aspect of it being color, like the zombies having that bright, like the paint splashes. For substitute and blood from most instances. I thought that was really creative and how they done that, and like showcasing that this is like a zombified area with through the paint splashes. This show's fun, man. I'll probably put it at an A because I think this shows at kind of like where Hell's Paradise was for me, where I'm looking forward to watching it every week. I'm looking forward to the next episode being dubbed for me. When I'm watching the dub. I'm enjoying the show.
Where's the dub? Is that who?
It's only the first 5 episodes out. It's on Netflix.
There's a dub on Netflix? I didn't know.
It's on Netflix? Is the whole thing's dubbed already on Netflix?
It's only 5 episodes out so far.
Yeah, I'm watching the sub. Yeah,
I've been watching on Crunchyroll. But yeah, that's all I got to say on it. I'm gonna give it an A.
So my first time turning this show on did not grab my attention in the slightest. I think I was at the time making a flyer for a show, and it just like usually when I do that like for a show, like there's something that will happen on screen that makes me like look up at the series or something, like just like pay attention, and it did not do that. My first time going through. Then recently, we reviewed the first 3 episodes of this show for a 3-episode rule on the Brother Cartel Network. Go there and check that out. And I really enjoyed it, honestly. I thought the first episode was kind of poetic. Just seeing how the literal world became more colorful to him the worse the invasion got, to the point where you're seeing rainbows on the ground instead of blood splash. And it also was like, this is a secretly like crazy dark show with a like light spin on it. It was like, oh, this is rainbows. It was like bro, like those are literal pools of blood everywhere.
Yeah,
like,
that's that's how they got around it. The censors.
Yeah, and like like seeing like the lives of the background characters is beautifully done. I think that they don't have a character that didn't seem relevant to the plot in some way. So I think they're doing a good job of like just maximizing off of what the little bit they've had to showcase in the first 5 episodes.
Yeah.
So I'm probably gonna give this an A also. I think it's really good. Give me a couple more. Give me that next 5. Give me that next 5.
Yeah, and I think bizarrely enough, what this does, because what happened, because obviously we were Otis and I love some zombies. I think Charlie, you still understand zombies.
Yeah.
The thing
I've seen way more zombie shit than I'd like to admit.
Right. Yeah, you know it very well. When it happens in those apocalypses, you always wonder like, why are they still going with the Walking Dead? It got to the point where sometimes you could tell the characters themselves like, why are we still doing this? It just feels morose. Why are we prolonging the inevitable? In this, it's kind of like it's saying like, yo, I know I'm gonna die. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna take care of the last 3 years of my life where I was basically in a zombie land, having to go to work over and over again. All the things I didn't get to experience, I'm gonna live it up now and do those I'm gonna find a way to live my life regardless. I think that's a very cool spin on it. Essentially, this dystopia will be my playground.
I think this show, like, if I had to give one word to describe this show, it's relatability. Like, people just, I think that's what people enjoy about it. It's like you can relate to being a zombie at work and then having that sense of relief of not having to go back to work and living the life that you want to live.
Yeah.
But if we all give it an A, I know at least me and O gave it an A, so I think it's an A.
Yeah, give it. Yeah.
And this is the late edition. It's something I just remembered randomly because I know we talked about the first 2 seasons a lot, and I think we reviewed a whole season on the show. Only the first
this
season.
Is the second season now. Yeah,
this is the second. A Vox Machina, man. This is one of my shows where like I'll have a couple shows where like I'll forget they exist for a whole year, and so the new season comes out, and I'm like, oh fuck yeah, I forgot about this. It's coming back. I can't wait. And this show for me this season didn't disappoint. I think this season was not as spectacular as the first, but I still feel like I enjoyed it just as much from where it left off. And I think a lot of the characters that were introduced, in addition to the original cast, was dope. And getting more development out of certain characters, like I almost called it a Korg.
Korg.
Is that name Korg? Okay, I'm sure. I thought I was getting him confused with Korg from Marvel, big rock dude.
At least I think his name was Korg. That sounds right. The Drax dude on the team.
I love Bruiser characters, and I thought like adding that level of depth to him, and like he's the goofball and the comedic relief. Well, one of the comedic reliefs of the group. But seeing that deeper level of him and what he can provide as a person and as a character, I thought was really fucking spectacular. And seeing the relationships deepen more between the crew, I'm just like, this show is just sneaky good. I'll say that. Like, I think initially watching a trailer or like watching parts of it, bits and pieces, you don't expect it to be as good as it is. I really enjoyed this season and this show altogether so far, and I think this show stayed relatively consistent in the second season. So I'd give it an A.
Otis?
Honestly, so my opinion is slightly different than Charlie, as opposed to where he feels that the first season was a little bit stronger. I think that this season was actually stronger. Just because you got to actually really get to see all development in all the characters. You get to see more of their history as to how they got to where they are, and then you get to see them grow from those past issues that they had from their previous lives. I think they gave every character a nice amount of shine within it, and it's still a short season, so that's like impressive that they can find a way to get that done. I'm also going to agree and give it an A. I don't think it was like it's not S tier. It's not up there with what we get up there yet, but I think the show gets better as every season. Another Ashley Simpson role. I mean, she's voiced a lot of characters.
That's Ashley Simpson.
Mm-hmm.
The singer?
She's the small.
Well, not Ashley Simpson. What is her name?
Ashley Johnson.
Ashley Johnson. I said,
yeah.
dear Lord, Ashley Johnson.
I was like, wait a minute.
Why did I like Ashley Simpson hasn't been relevant since like 2004?
If you're being generous, if you call it irrelevant, then okay, yeah.
Right,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but yeah, another Ashley Johnson role. And she said like a lot of iconic voices throughout her career. So I mean, she does.
She has that voice that you just like recognize instantly. Like as soon as I hear her in something, I'm like, oh, that's such and such.
Invincible, Gwen Tennyson from Ben 10.
The Last of Us.
The Last
of Us game. Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. Okay. So it's
That's
A tier. I saw just the first episode and then I kind of forgot all about the show. This is one of the shows where I had a similar reaction to this that Otis had to Zom 100 when he first saw it. It just seemed so like try hard with the comedy. And when I first started watching, I was like, okay, so this is just too much. But I ended up watching the first season. I thought the first season was pretty good, I guess. But I was never like in love with any of the characters or the idea. I thought it was fun to watch the idea of like, oh my gosh, these dragons now it took them forever and a day to kill that one dragon, and now there's a whole legion of them coming for them at the end at the first season. So I watched the first episode and then I kind of somehow forgot about the show, so I haven't seen any of it, the rest of it. But if y'all give it A tier, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, it gets a lot darker and you get a lot more insight in the characters, and like I think that this does a lot more of like introducing how they came together and like met each other a little bit more.
I'll watch it. Okay.
I'll fuck with it. I feel like by that last season they maybe have an S tier season by the last season. Honestly, about the way it's like the climax of it, I think it's going to be an S tier for me at some point. That's what I'm predicting of it. But we'll go ahead and put this in A. And that is our ranking for the series that the Then and Now podcast has either covered or discussed in 2023. I think I'll follow what but Otis's point. We can add to this throughout the rest of the year. Honestly, I want to do these going forward at like different points of the year, so we can kind of keep a running tally of like the different things we enjoyed and didn't enjoy throughout the year, which is easy because I think on this software on the website I'm using, you can like save your template and add to it. And these the ranking tiers, they expand where you can like stuff. I've seen people using for NBA rankings or whatever else for like 50 fucking players. So we'll have plenty of room in there.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, if y'all stuck with us for this whole 2 hour.
Hey, 2 hours. Love this shit. Craig be talking about why y'all videos don't be longer anymore. You can make them longer. I'm like,
because we're tired. We are tired old men.
So we'll go ahead and screenshot this. Y'all smile for the camera. There we go. And I'll be putting this on socials to kind of get everybody's thoughts on what we rank these shows so far. But do you have any? I know it's gonna be hilarious. It's gonna be firing them up in the comments.
Oh God.
What do you have? Any other closing remarks on anything before we get ready to get up out of here?
Just Feige, you gotta do better weaving together the MCU. You know?
Yeah, it's gonna be real.
That you got I'm sorry. I get that you had the hiccups during COVID, but that doesn't have anything to do with the cohesiveness of the verse that you're building, and there hasn't really been any lately. So fix it.
It's gonna be a bad look if DC jumps up and takes y'all shit over. That's my prediction with the Elseworld shit, where they can like do random sporadic stuff and not have to have it be attached. I'm like, they about to eat up the box office with that shit because they can experiment as much as they want, and then not have to be. You can have a Joker, you can have the Batman, you can have any version. You could have fucking DC zombies or DCs if you want to, and it not have to be connected, and just have fun with it and have different actors play different characters and still do your thing there.
Yeah. It's before
I'm done. That's it. I promise that's it. That's it. I know you hating. I know you were hating that nigga when it comes to DC stuff.
No, I'm as we've been here for 2 hours. I can back as I'm just tired. But yeah, it's I feel what Charlie's saying. It's definitely possible. I know the box office is having problems, and the box office is in general is like if people are having issues going to movies. So if they're able to find a way to get to a crowd out there, cool, more power to you. I'll say one other thing. I'll say watch Baki Hanma if you can. It was cool to see Hiro and Baki finally after all this time. I love that show. I love it to pieces. And then Charlie, I'll let you give some flowers to your girl Ahsoka real quick.
Oh yeah, Ahsoka. Hey, nigga, you know, this shit's heat so far. My favorite character of all time in Star Wars. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what this show. I think there's another episode out, right?
Came out today. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I may wait till I get paid so I can get some good grub and sit down. Also, your boy, I'll be at Dragon Con this Saturday. Me and the homies are gonna go to Dragon Con. I'm gonna try to get some stuff recorded for it and put together a little video to put on the channel. So if you guys are there, let me know. Pull up on your boy. In the A, I'll be there. We're going Saturday. I'm just going Saturday. I'm not going unless I'm working a con and making money. I'm not going more than one day. I'm sorry. I'm emotionally drained after one day of all that socializing and buying my sword to add to my collection. So we'll see y'all Saturday, and then I'll get some content out again. Your boy's got the Twitch up, Captain Diesel. Captain Diesel, and then as well as the other YouTube channel. That's where I'm going to be putting a lot of the movie reviews for stuff that I can't get these two guys to watch because it'd rather be schedule issues or they're just not interested. I'll put those movies there, as well as just random conversations that I'm going to have, and I'll have other guests in there. I have a Kendrick Lamar album ranking coming up with our guy Captain Perry over at BLM. He's gonna pop in and we're gonna do like a joint Twitch stream and get that together. That'd be fun to do. So again, if y'all want to show some love, hop over there and show us that. I'll have the schedule up for that pretty soon.
Cool.
Check out Blurred Cartel. Check out Blurred Official or Blurred.com. Whatever. I don't know what the official name of it is besides just Blurred.
Blurred. Just if you type in BLERD on your Google, that's us.
It'd be the first thing. So yeah, again, this has been another episode of The In and Out Podcast. We thank you for your support. We hope for your continued support. We have some dope shit coming. October is gonna be lit. October's gonna be lit. See y'all next time.
Peace.
You better MCU and let DC care. I'll pass y'all up.